A few years ago, I did a course about painting a crackle glaze, but I've never used the technique. Recently, I was given all this wood and there's no room in the shed for it, so I need to use it up. So my plan is I'm going to make some coat hooks and try this technique I learned years ago. It was nice to get given these bits of wood, but because they're so thin strips, they're not useful for much. So I'm going to glue them up into a panel. I need to keep these panels flat, so I've got a scrap of wood that I'm going to get under it, and then another piece on top and a couple of clamps, and that should keep it as flat as possible. I'm doing the same at both ends, and then some longer clamps can go on to pull the boards tight. I'm going to go and finish my tea and have my breakfast while this dries. This should be all dry now, so let's get these clamps off, and then I'm going to get it all put through the planer. This is all too wide though. I'm going to rip it down into 2 strips on the table saw. These bits are too long, so now I'm just going to cross cut them down with the mitre gauge to their final length. Boards are cut to length. Now I need the hooks for my coat hooks, and what I have is some shaker pegs. So I need to work out where each of these are going to go. I'm going to go for 7 pegs on here. So I'm going to mark out the centre point and then mark out the centres going away from that at 12 centimetres. I now need to mark out the centre point on each of these lines I've drawn. To attach this to the wall, I'm going to use some little brass screw cups So I'm just going to mark out where that needs to go as well. The pegs have a 1/2 inch or 12.7mm diameter, so I'm going to get a bit chucked up and get those holes drilled. I've got the holes drilled, but it's all very square, so I have a round over bit in my router and I'm going to run that round the outside. I've sanded it down with a random orbital sander, so now I can just hand sand around the profile and then we're ready to install the pegs. To get these installed, then I get a bit of glue into each of the holes and then they can just be tapped down into place. Right, I'm just going to leave these overnight to dry. With a crackle glaze you need 3 coats, a base coat, the thing that's actually going to make it crackle, and then a top coat. So obviously I'm starting with the bottom coat and I'm going to do red on one and blue on the other. Get the last bit of paint on and now I'm going to leave this to dry for a couple of hours. So I will see you then. This base coat is dry, so the next job is to get the crackle glaze on. Now this, as I say, is going to have 3 layers. The base layer, the crackle layer and then a top coat, and you want the top coat to go in a different direction than the crackle glaze. So I'm going to cross with this and then the top coat will go lengthways. So I'm just going to get this on both of them and then leave it for a couple of hours to dry. Unfortunately with this project there's a lot of waiting a couple of hours for things to dry. So I will see you then. Now we're finally onto the top coat. So for the red one I've got a green and I'm going to paint this on in the opposite direction to the crackle glaze. Now the theory is when this dries it will then crack and you'll be able to see the red paint through the green. That's the theory anyway, otherwise this has been a wasted video. Then for the blue one I'm going for black top coat. Definitely achieved some of the crackling effect that I'm after. Maybe not 100% perfect, but not bad for a first go. Anyway, very last coat of something I'm going to put on here is coat 4, and that is just some beeswax oil just to seal everything in. The last job then is to grab one of these brass inserts and get one hammered in to either end of the coat rack. So that is them all done. I really like the Crackle Glaze look. It's got that really vintage, worn look. I think I'll definitely use it again and hopefully get even better results. So I'll put a link to the Crackle Glazing stuff I use down below. So thanks for watching. Thanks to my patrons, and please subscribe for more videos.